Hello the internet, it's Laura again here, and welcome to my channel, Stories and Succulents. Today I was doing another video like I had done, if you saw my aloe vera video, where I kind of talked about getting that plant and all the things that I went through to learn how to grow that plant, and so today we're going to be having two plants, featuring two plants that are some of the first succulents that I got, and so I learned a lot about succulents from them as well. And so we're just gonna, I guess, jump right in. So the first one is, I'm gonna look this up because I don't remember these names very well. The Echeveria Pulvinata. A lot of people know those as ruby slippers. And so the story that I want to tell about that is, so I just got my aloe vera, and so I was being very interested in succulents still. So I was going around to Home Depot, and just looking at plants and looking at succulents because I was interested in them. And looking back now, that it must have been at not during the summertime. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it must have not been during the summertime because the selection wasn't all that great, but I didn't know that at the time. I was just super excited because they were beautiful succulents. And so I'm looking for any of them that might catch my eye, and there wasn't really anything. And then I saw this one time, and the thing that caught me about it, of course, if you know what ruby slippers are, the leaves were fuzzy. And like I said, I love, you know, touching and having nice feel on my leaves. And so as soon as I saw this plant had fuzzy leaves, this succulent had fuzzy leaves, I was like, gotta get it. And I brought it home, and I set it on the one windowsill that I have in my house that has technically south facing. And I put it there with my aloe, and it was so cute, and I loved touching it, and I watered it correctly, you know, because I had learned that, you know, I was on that with my aloe vera. And I mean, it did okay, but I'm gonna put a picture over here of what it looked like when I got it. Yeah, these days I would definitely call that a rescue plant. It was not in really great shape, and I thought, I mean, at the time I thought that the yellow leaves were like part of the plant. But what kept happening was those yellow leaves would shrivel and die and just fall off, and then some of the green leaves would would start going yellow and then dry and fall off. And so I went to the trusty internet, and they told me, the internet told me, that this is just a part of plants, is that the leaves, you know, the older leaves turn yellow and fall off, because they didn't look diseased. I was watering it properly. They weren't like getting all squishy and falling off and rotting or anything like that. They were just turning yellow and dying or falling off. And they were like, this is just the natural life cycle of the plant. The plant is going to lose the leaves, that they're going to turn yellow and they're going to fall off. And I was like, okay, well, that's great. But my green leaves, the new leaves, aren't growing in fast enough. Like, the yellow leaves were dying faster than the new leaves were growing in. And so that was at the point where I was like, okay, maybe my plants aren't getting enough sunlight from the window, because it is a south-facing window, but I'm like in one of those narrow, like the next door house is like right there, so it probably wasn't getting a lot of sun. And so I decided it was time to go and find a grow light. I had heard about grow lights, I knew about grow lights, so I went. Okay, so the grow light that I got, I went and I bought one of these guys, little domes, and I got just a plain white grow light bulb that's screwed in there. I don't have it anymore, it blew out since then. But, so this is what I got, and my basement at the time was unfinished, and so I just hung it from one of the rafters, and I stuck my plants under it, and I said, go. And so, put that down. The change in the ruby slippers was like amazing. The aloe vera was like, oh, okay, I'm happy with this. But the ruby slippers went from being, if you remember the picture, there was no real rosette, and it is an Echeveria. There was no real rosette on that, and with that light, turned into a rosette. The leaves themselves actually got bigger, and I guess I might as well just show it to you. So I have it in an arrangement right now. I don't have any individual ones. I'm going to show you. This is the ruby slipper here. It's the with the fuzzy leaves and the little edges. But the leaves actually got wider. If you can see, I don't want my fingers in the way. The leaves got wider and turned much more brilliant green and turned into these rosettes here. This one's been doing really good. This one's been outside, and it's also got some flowers coming in on it. They've been on there for a while now, so I don't know whether bringing it inside, because all my plants are inside now, whether bringing it inside has stunted the growth of the flowers or whatever, but I'm just, you know, leaving them on there. Everything's healthy, so whatever. But anyway, so this is what the plant looks like when it's getting the proper amount of light. And I think there's another one in here. Oh yeah, there's another one here and back here, and so a bunch of these, you know. But anyway, so once they got the proper amount of light, they turned into these beautiful rosettes, and they were still losing the leaves, but they were growing the new leaves fast enough that, you know, I was no longer worried about the plant losing all of its leaves and dying. And so that was my first experience with the difference that having the proper amount of light really, really creates. Like, here we go. The plant is dying, the leaves are falling off. It's healthy. The plant was perfectly healthy. I was watering it properly. It was in the, you know, its right environment, all that kind of stuff. But once I gave it enough light, it just, I mean, it exploded. And it grows really, really fast. And I love that. I love that plant. It's just so cute. And, you know, it was all the grow light. So one of the things you want to remember is you need to know what type of light your plant, whatever your plant is, needs. It's a consideration, because they might be okay, you know, sitting wherever they are, but you could get so much more growth out of them, and so they could be just so much happier if you know what light they need and you kind of play around with that. And so in the vein of playing around, my second plant that I was going to talk about today, and again I'm going to get my handy notebook, is the Haworthia Cymbiformis. It is what I really like Haworthias. So I had been watching videos online of succulents, and I fell in love with the Haworthias because they've got such those huge, big, squishy leaves. And I hadn't seen any at the Home Depot, which is pretty much was my only place for finding plants for a really long time. And so my husband and I went to Roanoke, nearby city. I live in Southwest Virginia. Roanoke is like the big city. We went there in February, oddly enough, for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's coming up. Anyway, for Valentine's Day. And we were spending the day the overnight in the big city. I know it sounds like, anyway. And we were walking around, and they had a farmer's market. And so, you know, we're just looking around all this stuff. They've got all kinds of different things. And one of the things that I found was a little stand that had some succulents on it. And I'm like, oh my God. And they had some cute little arrangements. And then they had what was, I want to say a 6-inch pot. A 6-inch pot full of Haworthias, you know, like whenever the thing gets like super full. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the plant that I wanted, you know. And it was February, but it was in bloom. I've come to find out that apparently Haworthias like to grow over the winter. So now that I'm coming into winter, like currently right now, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that and take care of, you know, what they might need, because all my other succulents are kind of like, oh yeah, it's wintertime, I want to stop now. Anyway, so I was like, I really want to get this plant because I haven't seen it yet. These are in good shape. It's flowering. And it was probably somewhere around $10 or $12. I mean, for a 6-inch pot full of these Haworthias, and so it's probably a pretty good deal, even though I didn't really know what a good deal was yet. So I got that and I brought that home. And it was great. It was very cute. And it went under the grow light with everything else. And I just kind of left it in the pot for a while because I wasn't really sure what to do with it. But I found it hard to water because the pot was completely full. And then if I put water on it, then the leaves, like, you know, you're not supposed to have water sitting on succulent leaves, but like it would because there was nowhere to pour the water in. So I decided I was going to pull it apart. And so I went one day down. This is still my unfinished basement, and I pulled it out of the pot, and I started pulling apart the root ball, and there were ants in it. So I did the only reasonable thing. I dropped it into a larger pot, and I went upstairs and I got the Raid, and I sprayed down the entire plant with Raid. Yeah. Which killed the ants. I left it there for a couple of days, just, and I went down later on and, you know, started pulling the plant apart again now that all the ants were dead, and, yeah. I probably should have washed it off, but I'm not even sure I ever actually washed off the Raid. Yeah, I didn't all know what I was doing back then. It's fine. So everything survived. The Raid apparently didn't, like, super hurt the plant in any way. But once I pulled it apart, I started putting it in all these different pots because, I mean, in my mind, you put a plant in a pot. I wasn't, like, super big on arrangements or anything like that yet. So I put all the Haworthias in different pots, and then I think by this point I had graduated to 2 grow lights. I think maybe I had graduated to 2 grow lights because I had other succulents by this point too. But I put the different Haworthias in different places, and the cool thing was I started noticing, like, how they were responding to the light. And I had so many of them that I was able to, like, kind of experiment a little bit because I wasn't really worried about all of them dying if I didn't give them. So I was trying different watering. You know, some of them I would give less water, I would give more water, I would put them more directly under the grow light and farther away. And the ones, obviously, that were further away were stretching toward the light. And so it was kind of my first foray into, I've got enough of these plants that I can really mess with them and see what I could really do. And so I learned a lot about just experimentation, because in a lot of cases I'm like, well, that's working good enough. I'm definitely a that's working good enough type of person. And so now I was able to really figure out, oh, okay, they really like this much light. They like, and apparently Haworthias don't like a lot of light. But I'm gonna show you the ones I have over here. So I had to bring these all inside because it was getting too cold outside, and so they're not sitting under grow lights because my basement is still being refinished. It should be done in a week, but right now I don't have my plants set up under their grow lights. And as you can see, I have all my plants actually set right up here on top of my hutch. And it's definitely stretching. Like, not super bad yet, but it's like getting there, so I'm really hoping that they finish on time. But, so that is my normal Haworthia. And it's actually probably needs to be watered a little bit too, but it could just be that it's stretching. Anyway, so there's that guy. And then, so one of the other things I had was I had pulled these all out of their pots. I had them all over the place. It was really a mess. I wish I had pictures from back then, but I don't have any pictures. I had a whole bunch of them in individual pots. I had the bottom to a planter, where I just put like maybe 2 inches of dirt and then just stuck a whole bunch of them in there. They did great in there. But at one point, I noticed that some of my Haworthias looked a little different than the other ones. And it was just kind of weird. And so, if you can see this, I had gotten a strain of variegation in my Haworthias. You can see these plants here, or these leaves here, where there's white along with the green. I had gotten some variegation. I didn't know what that was. Like, I mean, I knew what variegation was, but I didn't really understand it. Like, the pothos, where, you know, it's the green and the white marbling. Like, I just thought that was the plant, because those are so common, you know. I didn't realize that plants that were normally green could also be other colors. I know, it sounds silly, but I know better now. And so I had that one. I also got this one. This one had some real trouble with light when it was growing up, and now, again, it's not under a light. So this one is really, really stretched from where it should be. But this is the one I have that has the most white on it. I'm hoping it's focusing on that. I can't really tell. But all of that white. And I'm hoping to get these, like I said, I'm hoping to get them under grow lights kind of soon. So I kind of got lucky with the little variegation on those. And so now I'm learning more about variegation as well. I'm hoping to increase my Haworthia variegation, and then, because I don't have very many plants, so I was hoping at some point to be able to do plant swaps with people. And I figure that's probably the rarest thing I have right now is a variegated Haworthia. But I mean, I guess that's not bad. And so I've learned a lot from my Haworthia and my ruby slippers, which were the first succulents that I really got. I've got so many now, I don't even remember all the names of all of them, obviously. But, you know, I guess what I'd like for you to have gotten out of this video is just, you know, understanding that having plants is kind of a play around thing. You know, hopefully you have some common plants that you don't mind getting a little, you know, like they're not going to die if you don't do something particular with them. And just, you know, what happens if I give it more light? What happens if I give it less light? What happens if I give it more water? You know, and all that kind of stuff, and really figuring out what the best deal is. And I think that's one of the things people in general like about plants is just the satisfaction of once you really get a plant growing and it does really, really well. And so that's kind of what I'm looking forward to with all of my plants. And so, again, yeah, showing off these guys, you know, if you can make them happy, you know, they'll treat you really well, and then you get to see them do really, really well. So, that's going to be all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. You know, if you liked it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Go see my aloe vera video and learn a little bit about that guy. I'm going to be doing some other videos on, I want to do one on my top 5 plants, and I want to do one on my wish list plants, which a lot of my wish list plants are really common, but since I don't have a very big collection right now, you got to start somewhere, and I'd prefer to not start with like $100 plants. But anyway, we'll see. So that should be going up in the next week or so. So go ahead and subscribe if you'd like to see what's going on with that. And like this video if you like this video. Also, I am on Instagram, so if you want to follow me on there, I'm just taking pictures of my succulents and all that kind of stuff. And when my basement is finished, my plants are going to be moving down there, so I'll probably do a video on how I'm going to organize all that. Now that I actually have a ceiling and not just open beams, I'm going to have to figure out how to hang all my grow lights. It'll be interesting. It'll be great. But I do have a sink down there now, so I don't have to go upstairs for water. It's going to be great. Yeah. Okay. So, that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.